A fifth-round rookie just signed a contract that could burn down the NFL's entire billion-dollar empire. And the league didn't see it coming until it was too late. From the outside, it looked routine. Shedeur Sanders, fifth-round quarterback, inking his first pro deal with Cleveland. Modest salary, standard rookie paperwork. The headlines were forgettable, but buried in page 17, hidden in legal jargon most executives skim past, was a single clause that rewrote the power balance between players and owners forever. This wasn't just a contract. It was a declaration of war. The prime equity clause gave Shedeur something no rookie had ever demanded: 100% control of his name, image, and likeness. Every jersey sold with his name, he gets 20%. Every highlight reel monetized by the NFL, another check in his account. Special edition Browns merch, 20% goes straight to Shedeur Sanders Incorporated. Not the team, not the league, him. But the real genius wasn't Shedeur, it was Deion. Coach Prime had spent decades watching athletes become global icons while leagues got rich off their faces. He watched rookies generate millions in jersey sales and walk away with table scraps. He saw players become the faces of billion-dollar campaigns without owning a single pixel of their own image. When his son's moment came, Deion made sure history wouldn't repeat. The result? More explosive than anyone predicted. The NFL had no idea what was coming. Before Shedeur played a single regular season snap, he'd already generated over $250 million in Browns and NFL-related merchandise revenue. His jersey became a top seller nationwide, not because of his stats, but because the Sanders family had built one of the most loyal fan bases in sports. Thanks to the prime equity clause, Shedeur pocketed over $14 million. That's $14 million, enough to buy a private island and still have change for a yacht. His fifth-round rookie deal just became one of the most profitable first-year contracts in NFL history. Not from playing, from owning his brand. The clause had one hidden detail no one saw. Micro cliffhanger 1. The NFL thrives on control. They license jerseys. They approve sponsorships. They own the media rights. If a player's highlight goes viral, it's the league cashing in, not the athlete. But Shedeur's contract carved out an independent lane inside the NFL's walled garden. He wasn't just a quarterback, he was a franchise within a franchise. And the ripple effect, already spreading. Agents started calling Shedeur's camp within 48 hours. How do we replicate this? Veterans in locker rooms across the league were pulling rookies aside. Wide receivers who'd sold thousands of jerseys without seeing a dime outside their salary were suddenly asking why they didn't have equity clauses. Defensive stars with massive social followings started thinking, why am I giving the NFL my audience for free? The phrase Sanders-style clause became insider vocabulary overnight. For Shedeur, this wasn't about tearing down the system. It was about evolving it. In interviews, he kept steering the conversation toward empowerment. If you don't own your name, you don't own your work. That wasn't a soundbite. It was a mission statement. He knew exactly what he'd done, and he wasn't letting the story die. Agents were already texting in panic. Micro cliffhanger 2. Inside NFL front offices, executives who usually treat rookie signings as paperwork suddenly had a new energy, a mix of disbelief and alarm. General managers were texting each other. Did you see this Sanders clause? Marketing departments scrambled to figure out if they'd have to share revenue streams they'd always considered untouchable. But what happened next would expose just how unprepared the league really was. The NFL is built on the idea that the Shield, the league's brand, comes before any individual player. Stars exist within the structure the league controls. Shedeur's deal cracked that structure open. It wasn't just a crack, it was a fracture spreading fast. Inside the NFLP's offices, there was a different reaction: opportunity. Player reps had been pushing for years to give athletes more freedom over their likeness and merch revenue. The league always pushed back. Now one rookie quarterback had done it without a full-blown labor fight. The union saw Shedeur's clause as a proof of concept, a test case they could point to in the next CBA negotiation. The Browns' Week 10 game was about to prove whether this revolution was sustainable, or if the entire league would collapse under its own greed. Midpoint cliffhanger. Hours before kickoff, Shedeur's personal YouTube channel dropped a behind-the-scenes documentary of his week of preparation, film study sessions, mic'd-up practice clips, candid locker room moments. The video racked up millions of views before he even took the field. That night, wearing custom-sponsored cleats and a visor from one of his personal deals, Shedeur threw for over 300 yards, and led a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter. The NFL aired the highlights. So did he. On his own platforms, monetized for his own benefit. Fans didn't care who owned the footage. They just wanted more. Corporate sponsors loved it even more. Energy drink deals, apparel lines, content partnerships. When they signed Shedeur, they weren't just getting an NFL player. They were getting the whole Sanders machine, the built-in audience, the Coach Prime Association, the ability to bypass league restrictions and deliver marketing that felt authentic, not corporate scripted. One draft pick just said the quiet part out loud. Micro cliffhanger 3. By the next April draft, a projected top 10 pick was overheard telling his agent, "If they don't give me what Shedeur got, I'll wait." The comment leaked to social media within hours. By the end of the night, it was trending. The NFL, in damage control mode, tried to downplay the idea that Sanders' deal was influencing rookies, but it was already too late. The brand ownership conversation was no longer niche agent talk. It was mainstream sports culture. Veteran players weren't threatened by Shedeur's business success. They respected it. Some even started asking for advice. How do you negotiate media rights? How do you build a brand that lasts beyond playing days? Shedeur didn't hoard the answers. He seemed to enjoy breaking it down, explaining how his dad taught him to think like a CEO while preparing like an athlete. The whisper became a roar. The NBA was watching. Micro cliffhanger 4. Pattern interrupt. Rival leagues began taking notice. One basketball analyst tweeted, "The NFL is finally getting its LeBron moment." The comparison was direct. Shedeur's model mirrored how NBA superstars had shaped their own narratives and built empires outside league control. For Shedeur, none of this rattled him. His focus, at least outwardly, remained football. But those close to him knew he was playing a longer game. Every media appearance, every sponsor post, every piece of curated content was part of a strategy. It wasn't just about being a starting quarterback. It was about ensuring that when his playing days were over, he'd still control his name and his story. But that wasn't the real bombshell. Rehook 6. Pattern interrupt. The NFL itself began quietly studying him. Executives who'd once dismissed the clause as a rookie novelty were now asking for detailed reports on his earnings, engagement metrics, and fan demographics. They didn't like the precedent, but they couldn't deny the results. A merchandise report leaked showing that Shedeur's jersey had outsold multiple Pro Bowlers in his first month. That alone would have been a nice headline, but buried in the data was the kicker. Because of the prime equity clause, his personal earnings from those sales were higher than his entire rookie salary. The math didn't lie. In the old model, a rookie quarterback needed years of playing time, endorsements, and playoff appearances to see that kind of revenue. Shedeur did it in weeks. The precedent was spreading like wildfire. Rehook 7. Rival GMs began strategizing. Some wondered if they could attract free agents by offering similar clauses. Others were terrified of the precedent. A few floated the idea of lobbying the NFL to ban such clauses in future contracts, citing competitive balance. But the door was already open. By the time the season reached its midpoint, Sanders' clause was no longer insider jargon. It had become a rallying cry in the agent community. At the NFL Combine, in dimly lit hotel lobbies where executives and agents mingle, the topic kept circling back to Shedeur. Not his arm strength, not his stats. Always the same whispered refrain. "Did you hear how much he's making off merch?" The numbers had become legend. More than $250 million in total, Sanders branded merchandise revenue league-wide. $14 million directly into his pocket. This wasn't supposed to happen under the rigid structure of rookie deals. Yet, there he was, proving the impossible wasn't just possible, it was profitable. And what he said next would send shockwaves through the entire league. On a Thursday Night Player podcast, Shedeur dropped what would become his most replayed quote of the season. "They tell you to focus on football and let the rest take care of itself. But if you don't take care of your business, someone else will. And it won't be you getting paid." That line hit the NFL like a meteor. The older generation felt a mix of admiration and frustration. Younger players felt something different. Possibility. The NFLPA began fielding calls from agents wanting formal language added to the next CBA, allowing players to carve out personal equity rights. One union executive privately admitted, "What Sanders did might be the most important contract move we've seen since the rookie wage scale was introduced. The league may still hold the shield, But for the first time in a long time, it was clear that one player had managed to build something powerful enough to stand beside it, not beneath it. The Sanders revolution wasn't just changing one contract, it was rewriting the entire playbook. But here's the question, keeping NFL executives awake at night. If one rookie quarterback could flip the script this completely, what happens when an entire draft class shows up demanding the same deal? Will the league adapt to this new reality? Or will the players simply take control once and for all? The answer might determine the future of professional sports forever. And if you think this story ends here, you're damn wrong. The billionaire owners are already plotting their countermove, and it's uglier than you think. Subscribe so you don't miss the next shocking chapter. Because when power shifts this fast, someone always gets crushed.